I am Anil Kumar. Welcome to my series on linear relations. We'll take up 3 application questions in this particular video. I hope you can see the first 2 questions now. You can always pause the video, copy the questions, solve, and then look into my suggestions. Here is question number 3. Now, let us take their solutions one by one. Question number 1. The annual cost of operating a motorcycle varies partially as the distance driven. The cost is $610 for 2,000 kilometers and $850 for 5,000 kilometers. Determine the relation that represents this relation. Find the cost of driving 9,000 kilometers. If the annual cost is $550, how many kilometers can be driven? So when we know it is partially dependent, we can use the equation y equals to mx plus b, right? So that represents partially dependent. Where in our case, the dependent variable is the cost, right? So we can say that cost C is our dependent variable, right? Which is given in dollars. And then kilometers is the X amount, which is the kilometers, and m is the rate, right? So we can write cost as m into x plus b, right? So we have 2 points basically. Cost of 610 for 2,000 kilometers. That means one equation will be, we have 610 when the car goes 2,000 kilometers, so which is m times 2,000 plus b. The other one will become 850 cost for 5,000 kilometers, m times 5,000 plus b, right? So we could actually substitute these values in our equation, getting 2 different equations. Let's call them equation 1 and 2. And now, if I subtract one from the other, right? So let's do equation 1 minus, rather let's do equation 2 minus 1, right? So if I do equation 2, take away equation 1, right? So what do you get? You get 0, and that is 4, right? And that is 2. 240 is equal to, b and b cancel, we get 3,000 m. So the slope m is equal to 240 over 3,000. Does make sense to you, right? So if you calculate this, you can cancel these terms. You can divide by 2, and so when you do that, it goes 12. You can divide straight away because this can be divided by 12, right? So what you get here is 2 over 25. So that becomes the slope. So I have purposely used this method to show you that we need not always use slope for finding the rate, right? You are allowed a calculator. You could also use 240 divided by 3,000 and get your answer, which is 2 over 25, right? So we'll use calculator actually. So once we know the slope, we can find the y-intercept, right? Well, definitely, some of you can also find slope m by using the formula, that is m is equal to the y values, right? So 850 take away 610 divided by 5,000 take away 2,000, correct? Which will also give you 2 over 25. It is the same equation. You see, 850 take away 610 divided by 5,000 take away 2,000. We got 3,000, correct? So both are correct. Perfect. Now we get our equation of the form that the cost is equal to 2 over 25. That is the value of m times the distance x plus that amount which you have to pay even if you don't run the motorcycle. Now to find the value of b, we can substitute any one of these points. So let's substitute 6, 10 and 2,000. So we get 610 equals to 2 over 25 times 2000 plus B, right? Now, 25 goes 4 times in 100, right? So you get 80 here, correct? So you could write this as 610 equals to 80 times 2, 160 plus B, or 610 minus 160 is equal to B, and that is equal to 0. And then from 11 you get 5, and then from 5 you get 450. So we get the relation that the cost is 2 over 25 times the distance x plus 450. Clear? So that is how we can get the solution, rather the equation, to represent this particular relation, right? Now part B is find the cost of driving 9,000 kilometers. For part B, we'll substitute 9,000 for x, which is kilometers. C is the cost. So we get 2 over 25 times 9,000 plus 450, correct? So let's multiply and get the answer. So we get 2 times 9,000 divide by 25, and then we'll add 450 to this. So it comes to, cost comes to 1170. The answer should be dollars, right? So therefore, cost equals to $1,170. Now for part C, if the annual cost is $550, how many kilometers can be driven? So x is the number of kilometers it can be driven, right? The way we defined our variables, we were saying let the cost be C and this be x, correct? So x is the number of kilometers. The cost is given to us as 550. So we'll suppose 550 on this side we'll put. We have 2 over 25 times x plus 450. So we'll take away 450 from 550 to get 2 over 25 times x, and that is 100. So we get 100 times 25 over 2, right? So that gives you the value of x, which is 50 times 250, right? 25, right? 50 times 25. So 25 times 50, or 25 square, which is 624. Yeah, times 2, right? So what we get here is 1250. So we could drive 1250 kilometers for annual budget of $550, right? So our answer in this case is 1250 kilometers, correct? So that is how we can actually answer this question. I hope the concept is absolutely clear. So there was a variation in our doing this question. We actually wrote the equation and then solved it. You could have first found the slope, as I was saying, and then get back to the equation. Either way is correct. Now let's take question number 2. A health club charges its members a fixed annual fee plus a fee each time they visit the club. In the same year, Richard visited the club 50 times and paid total of $450. Nigel visited the club 120 times and paid $800. What are the fixed fee and the fee per visit? So let's define our variable. We say fixed fee, let it be f, and the variable fee, number of times you are going is n. So variable fee will be rate. We call this m, right? Now n is the number of times, n is and c is the cost. So our independent variable is actually n in this case, and we can now write c as equal to number of times into the variable rate, so mn, plus the fixed fee f. Does make sense to you, right? So we get this general equation, which is partial variation. Now we can again substitute the values. So one set of value which we have is that for Richard, 50 is the number of times, right? So 50 and paid 450, correct? And for Nigel, it is 120 and $800. So these become the 2 points. Now we'll substitute these 2 points, get our two equations. So we can say 450 equals to 50 times m, because we substituted for n plus fixed amount, and we have 800 equals to 120 m plus f. Is that clear to you? Now again, if we take the difference between the two, in that case, what do we get? So we'll call this as our equation 1, this as equation 2, and what we're doing here is doing equation 2 minus 1, simply because this is bigger, right? So when you take away from 800 this, you get 0, 5, and 7 take away this 350, equals to here 0, and that is 7. M. F and F cancel. So 350 divided by 70 gives you the value of m, which is, they cancel, 5. So we know m is 5. Now when you substitute 5 here, you can find the value of f, right? So we'll call this as our equation number 3, and we'll sub 3 in one of our equations. Let it be in equation 1, right? So we get 450 equals to 50 times 5 plus f. So we get 450 minus, so 5 times 5 is 25, 250 is equal to f, which is 200. So that gives you the value of f. So we get our equation, which is, let me write here, 450 equals to 50 times m, I should have written n, the number of visits, right, plus the fixed cost of 200. Okay. So from here, we get both fixed cost and the fee per visit, right? So fixed cost is $200, and rate, which is m, is $5 per visit, and per visit is $5 per visit. Is it clear? So that is how we are going to solve this question. So I hope the concept is absolutely clear. Let's move on and take the last question now. Here's the last question, question number 3. A school team travels from Malton to Ottawa, a distance of approximately 520 kilometers. The first part of the trip is completed by car, which averaged 80 kilometers per hour. The last part of the trip is by train, which travels 120 kilometers per hour. If entire trip takes 5 hours, determine the distance the school team spent traveling by train. So let's make a kind of a sketch to represent this situation. So let us say we are going from Malton to Ottawa, and first part is by car. Let's say this is up to this point is by car, right? So let's say point up to by car, and then it is by train. Now, since we need to find the distance traveled by train, we'll call this distance as x here. And so, total distance being 520 kilometers, right? So we are given this distance total is 520. That clearly means if this is x, then the distance here will be how much? Will be 520 minus x, correct? So that is by car. Now we also know that the speed of train and the car, we know that 80 kilometers per hour and 120 kilometers per hour. And distance, speed, time, triangle also we know, right? That helps us to relate distance, speed and time. So distance, speed and time. Since we are given the total time of 5 hours, right, we can write from here that the relation is time is equal to distance over speed. So we can add both the times to 5. That is what we will do, right? So to form the equation, we have total time equals to time by car plus time by train. Since time is distance over speed, by car we are traveling 520 minus x and the speed is 80. By train we are traveling x and the speed is 120 and this total time is 5 hours. So we got everything now here in the form of an equation. In this equation there is only one variable, which is it says determine the distance the school team traveling by train. So that is the distance traveled by train, which we need to find. Now we can actually take common denominator between these two, which is 240. 3 times 80 is 240, right? So we'll multiply all this by 3 times 520 minus x, and we'll multiply this by 2, right? So we get plus 2x. And here we have 5. So let's open the bracket. So we get 5 equals to 60 and 15, right? Minus 3x plus 2x over 240. So we can now cross multiply. So when you cross multiply, you get here 5 times 240 equals to 1560 minus, here minus 3x plus 2x is minus x. So let's bring x on the left side. So we have x equals to 1560 minus 5 times 240, which is 5 times 4 is 20, 0, 2, 10 and 2 is 12, right? That much. So we get this value of x, 1560 take away 1200, which is 63. So 360 kilometers, right? So we get our answer, and that is team spent traveling by train. So it is 360 kilometers by train. Is that clear to you? So that is how we can actually solve this question also. So I hope you find the method simple and useful. Feel free to write your comment, share your views. If you like and subscribe to my videos, that'd be great. Now these kind of questions could also be asked in linear systems where we are forming two equations and then by elimination or substitution we solve them. And these questions could also be part of linear relation where we could use just y equals to mx plus b and solve. So that is the beauty of these questions. I hope you appreciate it. Thanks for your time and all the best.